Hi, everybody. This is James H. Roby, and I thought I'd do something a little different this month's newsletter, something a little bit more interesting. What I wanted to do was bring in some people I know professionally and or personally who have something to do with literary world or touch on the world of Jordan Noble's fictional world. So with me today, Chris Edison. She is a longtime friend of mine. We met during NaMoWriMo, actually. Uh,
Mhm.
Seems like it was 20 years ago. I don't know how long ago it was, but it's been a while. And since then, I joined her writers group, which is she is our de facto leader, Writers at Work. So I'm going to let Chris introduce herself. So Chris, welcome aboard and tell us a little bit about yourself.
I've been a librarian for 10 years, and I work at Batavia Public Library as the young adult librarian there. And my favorite things to do at the library, I love to help people find things that they're looking for, and I love to help set up book displays, and I love to do programming for teens, even though it's nerve-wracking because you never know if teens are gonna actually come to the programs or not. That's always a question. The Batavia teens are really busy. But I've been running the Writers at Work writing group. I've been the leader of that group for 25 years now. I can't believe it. Yeah, it's been a long time. And James is one of our most prolific members of the group. And so I'm delighted to talk to him for his newsletter. So
Well,
thanks for
thank you
having
so
me.
much. Thank you so much, Christian. Let me tell you that I can definitely vouch for her liking to help. She's always populating my box with little tips and resources for getting for new authors and something that as a ND author myself, I deeply appreciate. So, but that being said, let's ask Chris a few questions. And Chris, this has been a strange time for us. This COVID-19 pandemic. It affected our daily lives in a lot of different ways, and it's really impacted the library. What has been that impact, and what's the library's response to that? How they responded to the changes that COVID has caused in our life?
It's been really interesting working at a library, and for a while working from home for a library. I never thought librarian was a job that I could do from home because we're so tied to the reference desk and that building. But we really had to rethink a lot of what we're doing at the library to think how we could do it at home, and also to be preparing for welcoming people back into the building safely. So it's been a paradigm shift, really, to think of the library as not just the space in the building, but also what we can offer the community at a time when the building can't be open. So, offering Wi-Fi, boosting our Wi-Fi signal so that people can get to the parking lot if they need it, and now offering curbside service so that we can help people find books. We were ordering ebooks and e-audiobooks like crazy this spring, so that people would have something to check out and read. Because we've been hearing from the community, they love us and they want us back, and they really, really want new things to read and watch and everything. So we've been trying hard to provide those things. We've also been providing virtual programs. We were really sad when we had to cancel all of our spring programs. And so we had to get up to speed on things like Zoom to help provide programming.
Yeah, I was telling a friend of mine not too long ago. I wish I had bought stock in Zoom about 6 years ago because man, this everyone is really leaning heavily on Zoom.
That's for
And
sure.
you mentioned a lot of things, some of the community outreach you do, and I think that you don't think about the library until you need it, and it's always there. Now suddenly it's not there, so
Yeah.
it's good to hear that there's been some responses. But I remember a couple of years ago you mentioned a concept to me, and it really kind of stuck with me about
Mhm.
the library being the third space. It's not work, it's not school, it's not home. It's like the third space.
Yep.
And I thought that would be that's an interesting concept because I never really thought about that until I started, actively writing and I wanted to get away
Mhm.
from home. And it was a place that I could still go to and use their resources. But
Mhm.
eventually COVID will be over.
Mhm.
And with that said, what will the library of the future look like with that in mind and the things that we have learned from COVID and particularly the rise of digital books. I know you mentioned it a little bit earlier, but
Yeah.
there was a fear that that would kill the library. But what is the library's response to that?
That's a good question. I think the library is going to have to evolve as a third space, and I should probably explain what
Hmm.
we mean by third space. Um, so if you think of home as sort of your first space and work as your second space, the third space is sort of like where you go to relax. It's also where you go to get away from home and from work. For instance, if you have young children at home and you need to make business calls, we have a lot of people who use the study rooms at the library as sort of like their de facto home office. We have a lot of tutors who are using the library to tutor students. We have a lot of people who are meeting people outside of their homes and office for various functions at the library. So, and it's also great for a lot of writers who want to get work done in a really nice quiet space where you have access to a lot of different materials. So that's what we mean by third space. So yeah, right now, I mean, we had to take out all the chairs around the reference section, and really cut down on the number of computers we have available. So we're trying to plan for where we're going to be when we're able to reopen to patrons, but it's going to look like a different space for a while. We're not going to have all of the services that we normally have in place. We're even thinking of, if everybody's wearing a mask and somebody comes in and needs notary service, our library provides notary service. How are we going to be able to identify them for behind the mask? So we're rethinking everything. And so, yeah, we've got to be thinking toward the future. How long are we going to be in this sort of different COVID environment? I think it's going to be here for a little while.
It's gonna
And
be
if
here longer than we thought initially it's gonna be here.
yeah, and so I'm hoping that the library can still provide as much as we possibly can for people. We're already hearing from people that they're liking the virtual programming that we're doing. So it sounds like the virtual programming isn't going to go away entirely. The people appreciate that, and especially the people who can't make it to the library for whatever reason will still be able to have that contact and will still be able to see programs. So that's, I think, been a positive thing. At my library, we've also tried some different programming things that we would never, they were on the drawing board for years, but we never would have tried them if we hadn't had to come up with different concepts for it. So yeah, the library of the future, I think we are going to offer more ebooks, but there are also people who really don't like ebooks, who really want the physical books, who want to be in the building. And so we're trying to see how much we can offer people. And it may just be that we offer things in stages. So I think eventually we're going to get back to having the study rooms open. Eventually we're going to have the program room open and everything, just not yet. So we'll get there. We'll get there.
Well, I'm one of those people. I like to have my physical book for certain things. I don't mind ebooks for I'll try this. Because it's usually cheaper. Sometimes you can catch a deal and they're introducing the price. I like audiobooks because I can do it while I'm driving or using the yard.
Absolutely.
But for those guys who like Tom Clancy and his successors and any of the James Bond books, I like to have a physical book just so I can have it in my library.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
And then any kind of autobiography, I like to have that as well.
Interesting.
But the thing that's interesting about what you're saying, I was listening to you. It's just like, again, as I started writing more heavily, I started to lean more on the library, unknowingly using that third space. But there's a lot of services and programs that you offer that I didn't even know and listen to. It's like, oh, I didn't know you guys did notary.
Yeah.
And I know it's a place that in something I recently discovered, not rediscovered more correctly, is that you can get movies there and they're relatively low price. I mean, there's a TV show out of England that I caught only one episode of when I visited, and I never saw it before until I visited a library. And it's like they had the entire series. It's called MI5, and it's just like, this is awesome. I can, because it was hard to find in other places. But so I'm glad that the library is adapting and going to be around because it's a very useful tool. If you're not using the library, you really need to check it out once it's The library's not open right now. You mentioned removing chairs. I mean, can you go to the library today?
I was at the library today. So what
Okay.
we're doing is we're offering reference service if people call us or email us. I'm there at the desk, and then there's also somebody working from home who's
Okay.
answering email questions, and we're emailing back and forth if there's something that she needs me to do to pick up materials or whatever. We're offering printing, so people can print up to 20 pages for free, just because we don't want to handle change and things right now.
Okay.
Uh, and then we're
That's
pulling
nice.
books off the shelf. So people will call us and say, I want books on this topic. And so we'll set those aside for them, and then they can come use the curbside service and check them out. So
And how is that working? Are you like washing the books between uses or something, or?
no, we're quarantining them. So
Oh,
after the books come
okay.
back, they sit in a bin for 4 days, because there was a study done that said that it's like the virus can't survive for more than 3 days on
Hmm.
paper or plastic materials, and so we're quarantining them and then checking them back in.
So this is
So
the library's own decontamination chamber.
yes, they
All
say
right.
our motto is time is the best disinfectant.
Okay. All right. Works for
So,
me.
but though the one thing is that some of our patrons are very concerned because they continue to see the books checked out on their records after they turn them in. It's like, wait a minute, because our library is really good about checking things back in like right
Yeah.
away. And they were like, oh my God, I checked this in like 3 days ago and it's still on my record. It's like, it's okay. It's okay. And, we waive the fines. You
You
won't.
could get this huge fine, because you know how
Yes.
those librarians are about their fines. They will track you down.
No, we just want the stuff back. So anyway,
That's good to know. And I'm glad that you're practicing all the things that will make even any barrier to the library, even reduce even further. So now, Chris, I have the dreaded
oh,
question for every librarian. You are trapped on a desert island, and you can only have 3 books. What would those 3 books be?
and this was the toughest question when you emailed me about this. Um, so one of my very favorite books by my favorite author is The Stories of Ray Bradbury, just because it's got like 100 different stories in there, and
Okay.
they're all different. They go between like fantasy and science fiction and horror, and so it's the one book that I considered stealing from my local library as a kid because I love that book so much, and I finally got my own copy. I would take that one because it's comforting, and I always find something new in it. So that would be number one.
Okay.
Yeah. Number two would be a book that I've wanted to read for a long time, but and know I should because it's referenced everywhere. But the stories of Sherlock Holmes would be my second
Can I
choice.
change my answer now?
It just seemed like it would be, you got time on the desert island waiting, and I considered because you would also think, why not a book on like survival skills? But
Yeah.
I
We're not doing that.
yeah,
Now. This is strictly for fun.
don't worry about that. And I also considered, well, I could just bring my Kindle along, and then I'd have thousands of
It's
books, but the
cheating.
Kindle would run
Well,
out of
you're on the desert island, so your batteries eventually die.
right, exactly. And then the third book, my dad always said that the Bible had a wealth of stories in it, and that any writer should definitely know about the Bible. Plus, I think as a source of comfort to reread classic stories and have food for thought. So I'd bring my Bible along.
Well, you're getting the most bang for your book, because every one of your books has multiple stories in it. So I want to change my answer. But I don't want to bring I have a collection of Edgar Allan Poe's story, and I bought it strictly for The Raven. And I said,
Mhm.
well, and within that, it's supposed to be the first detective story. So I also read that. So
Absolutely.
I want to bring that now. I don't know what I
Oh,
would
there you
put on
go.
my other list.
There you go. And Murder in the Rue Morgue, or no, well, Murder in the Rue Morgue, absolutely. But Mask of the Red Death right now with the coronavirus. I mean, I reread that story. It was just like
It might be too close to
a lot
home.
of good stuff in there. But yeah, that's a good choice. It's a good choice.
Yeah, and what else would I pick? I'd also pick the Bible, because I think at that point I want the big guy on my side.
Absolutely.
So now I have to take out one of my other choices. And I
Ooh,
think I'm going to stick with Lord of the Flies. It was the first. I remember it's the first book that I was assigned to read at school that I really liked. So I would like to read that.
that's great. That's great that you found a book. I've heard that Ender's Game is another book that a lot of people have said that that was the book that got them reading. So
I don't think I could because I saw the movie first and it was horrible, and I just think it ruined it for me. Well, hey, Chris, I really appreciate you taking time out of your busy day. You know, we both had some closing schedules here, and we finally got together. But like I said, Chris and I also. Oh, I'm sorry, Chris, you had something?
yeah, if you have a moment, I just
Oh,
wanted to
sure. No, no, sure.
for the writers in your audience. I'm going to mention a couple of different tools that librarians use that you should be made aware of. One is I have writers ask me occasionally for help with determining other books that are like theirs. And librarians use a resource called Novelist to, when somebody says, oh, I want to read another book and I just read this book and I want one just like that, I will go into Novelist and plug in that title and I can give you a list of 10 different books that are somewhat similar to that. So that's the first resource for writers. The other one, at least in Illinois, is a new resource called Self-E that you can use to get your ebooks into your local library's collection and in collections throughout Illinois. So I at least wanted to make you aware of that. So that's a quick plug for libraries.
And these are resources exclusive to libraries. You can't like download it on the internet or anything like that.
Novelist, I think, is available at a lot of libraries nationwide. So it is through your local library, or should be. It's nationwide. Self-E, I know was paid for by our library system, which is through a good portion of Illinois.
Okay.
So you'd have to double check with your library system to see if they have that available.
So support your local library.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, once again, thank you, Chris, for stopping by. Once again, I met Chris in our writers group. So she's also a prolific writer. We very much are looking forward to her first published novel. I'm not going to put her too much in the spot, but she did write some very interesting stories that I only have done. But besides that, thank you so much, Chris. We appreciate that. Everybody, please, if you get a chance, leave a review for the books that you have written and read, and the ones you haven't. There's links to your favorite e-publishers to get a copy of the books that you haven't. Until then,
yes.
Sorry, go ahead.
If you want to read James Roby's novel, we do have it at Batavia Public Library. We've got at least one of them there. So.
And you know what? I went to visit the library, and there's no joy other than seeing your own book on the shelf. That's me. So that was pretty cool to see. I even took a picture of it. So that was a good moment. So hey, Chris, once again, thanks a lot. Everybody else, we'll see you on the internet. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.